The chandelier overhead gave a gentle golden glow over the dimly lit dining room. The aroma of the rosemary chicken I had made still lingered in the air, blending with the warm glow from the mahogany table. It was a scene that once would have felt cozy and familiar, chatting, eating, living together, with the delicate vanilla scent of Olivia's perfume filling the space. But tonight, something wasn't right. Olivia sat across from me as composed as ever. Her well-groomed nails lightly tapped the stem of her wine glass. Her lips slightly pursed as though she were trying to find the right words. I should have noticed the strain in her shoulders, the way her eyes fluttered with something unintelligible. But I was too engrossed in the routine of a husband and wife dinner. And then, she said it. "I don't need a life with you anymore." Her words cut through the air like a blade, cold, sharp, and definitive. For a brief moment, I thought I had misheard her. I looked at her expecting a giggle, a smirk, some sign that this was a cruel joke. But instead of laughing, Olivia simply sipped her wine, as if she hadn't just shattered everything we had built together. The casual way she said it hurt more than the words themselves. I let the silence linger, feeling the weight of her statement settle over me. She was serious. Sitting across from me was a woman I had loved, supported, and sacrificed for, and now she was telling me I was obsolete. That with the $5 million she inherited from her father, she no longer needed me in her life. I should have been angry. I should have slammed my fist on the table, demanded an explanation, but all I felt was a deep exhaustion, as if my body was shutting down to protect me from the pain. I studied her carefully. She looked different to me now. She wasn't the woman I had fallen in love with. She wasn't the person who had comforted me in the dark or held my hand through difficult times. This was someone else, a stranger with cold, calculating eyes, and a smirk that told me she had already won. She swirled the wine in her glass, already imagining her life without me. Perhaps she expected me to beg, to plead with her to reconsider. Maybe she had even practiced this moment, rehearsed it with her friends over brunch, laughing over mimosas about how liberating it would be to finally rid herself of me. I wasn't going to give her that satisfaction. She thought she had the upper hand, that I would crumble. But she was wrong. I leaned back in my chair, studying her. She was dressed beautifully, her hair curled just right for the occasion. That's when it hit me. She had been planning this for a long time. How long had she been seeing me as a burden instead of a partner? I kept my face unreadable. I didn't argue. I didn't fight. For the first time, her smile faltered, as if she had expected more resistance. Maybe anger, maybe tears. But I gave her nothing. She raised an eyebrow. No argument? No pleading? I shrugged, picked up my glass of water, and took a sip. "You've made up your mind," I said flatly. "I'm not going to fight for a place where I'm not wanted." I saw the brief flicker of surprise in her eyes, but she masked it quickly. "That was easier than I thought," she murmured, leaning back in her chair. I suppose I was worried for nothing. She thought she had won. But Olivia didn't know the truth. The $5 million, it wasn't actually hers. I had seen the documents weeks ago. I knew the real conditions of her inheritance, the fine print she had overlooked in her excitement. She thought she was stepping into a life of luxury and independence. She had no idea what she was walking into. I wanted to laugh at the irony, but instead I simply took another sip of water. "Hey, Olivia," I said softly. "I hope it makes you happy." She tilted her head, sensing something. A tiny nagging feeling that something wasn't quite right. But her greed and excitement drowned out her instincts. "Oh, it will," she said confidently. She had no idea. After a long period of stillness, during which she began to fear, I eventually responded. "Fine." I consented to see Olivia one final time at a peaceful park outside the city, neutral ground. When I got there, I nearly didn't recognize her. She was a shadow of the person she used to be. The luxury clothes she had always worn now hung off her like they didn't belong, and her once glowing skin appeared pallid and lifeless. For the first time in her life, Olivia looked discouraged. Heavy circles rested under her eyes. People had always thought she had the world at her feet. The way she carried herself exuded confidence and superiority. But now, she looked like she had been chewed up and spat out by life itself. She straightened when she spotted me approaching. Her hands trembled as she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, despite her best efforts to maintain her composure. "You came?" she muttered gently. I shrugged, curious. She winced but nodded, as though she had anticipated that response. She opened. Her mouth hesitated, then simply said, "You know, I lost everything." Her brows knitted together as she looked up at me. "Did you expect this?" I asked. She tilted her head, confusion flickering across her face. "You knew there were debts tied to your inheritance," I continued. "Had you read the documents instead of celebrating like you had won the lottery, you would have known." Guilt flashed across her face. "And you remained silent," I said with a grin. "Would you have listened if I had told you?" She opened her mouth, then shut it. She knew the answer. She had been so consumed by greed, so convinced she had outgrown me, that she never paused to consider whether she was walking into a trap. And now that the trap has closed, I sighed. "What do you want from me, Olivia?" She swallowed hard, hesitating. "I need help," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. She looked at me with beseeching eyes, eyes that had once held nothing but arrogance. "The bank is taking possession of the house next month," she continued. "I have nowhere else to go. No savings. No one to turn to." I took a deep breath, rubbing my chin thoughtfully. "You thought Logan was your future," I mused. "You thought having money made you untouchable. But as soon as things went wrong, he ran. And now, after everything, you're back here." She averted her gaze, blushing with shame. "I know I don't deserve it," she muttered. "I know I treated you horribly." It was a last frantic admission, not of regret, but of desperation. She wasn't here because she loved me. She was here because she had no one left. "You think if I take you back, things will magically go back to the way they were?" I asked. She shook her head quickly. "No, I just need a place to stay until I figure things out." I exhaled, shaking my head slowly. "Olivia, do you remember what you said to me the day you inherited the money?" She stiffened. I leaned in slightly, my voice calm but sharp as a blade. "You said you didn't need me anymore." Her lips parted. Tears welled in her eyes. "I didn't mean—" "But you did," I interrupted. "And you were right, Olivia." I stepped back, stuffing my hands into my pockets. "You don't need me now, either." Her breath hitched. Her entire body tensed, as if she had been struck. She blinked rapidly, struggling to process my words. You won't help me?" "No," I said simply. She shook her head, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Please, I have nothing. That's not my problem anymore." She let out a shaky sob, covering her face with her hands. I turned and walked away, not sparing her another glance. She had made her choice. Now she had to live with it. I thought that would be the end of it. I thought Olivia would accept her fate and disappear from my life for good. But I was wrong. A week after our last meeting at the park, she showed up at my door. It was late, past midnight. The sound of her knocking pulled me from a deep sleep. At first I thought I had imagined it, but then it came again, louder, more desperate. I sighed, rubbing my face before swinging my legs over the bed. I considered ignoring it. After all, nothing good ever came from someone showing up at your doorstep in the middle of the night. But something told me this was the last time she would ever come. So I got up, I approached the front door and pulled it wide, and there she was. Olivia, standing. In the dim glow of my porch light, a ruin of the woman she used to be. Her hair was a tangled mess from the wind. Her makeup was smudged, as if she had been crying for hours. She wore an oversized hoodie, one I recognized as mine from years ago. It swallowed her frame, making her look even smaller, more fragile. She looked up at me with wide, red-rimmed eyes. "Please," she whispered. I didn't say anything. I just stared at her. This was it. This was rock bottom. For months, Olivia had walked around like she was untouchable, like she had won the game of life by throwing me away for a richer man. She had smirked in my face while she cheated. She had the audacity to hand me divorce papers, acting as if she was doing me a favor. And now she stood before me, reduced to nothing. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "What do you want?" "Olivia?" Her lips quivered. I don't know where else to go," she admitted, her voice shaking. I tilted my head. "What happened to your house?" She let out a shaky breath. "Gone. The bank took it this morning." I wasn't surprised. I had seen it coming before she did. She thought that inheritance money would last forever, that Logan would be the answer to all her problems. But Logan was a parasite. The moment he realized Olivia's riches were built on unstable ground, he took what he could and vanished. And now, she had nothing. "What do you want me to do about it?" I asked, my tone unreadable. She gasped at the coldness in my voice. I just need a place to stay," she murmured. "Just for a while, until I can work things out." I let out a slow breath. "You treated me like I was nothing for months," I said. "You left our marriage, flaunted your new life, and paraded Logan in my face. Now that you're homeless, suddenly I'm good enough again?" Her eyes filled with humiliation. For the first time, she didn't try to defend herself. She had destroyed every bridge, burned every connection. She had no one left, and I had finally moved on. "You told me you didn't need me," I reminded her, stepping back. "And you were right." Her breath hitched. "Please," she pleaded again. But I was done. I shut the door, and for the first time in years, I finally let Olivia go.